Going back to some items. You are going on a desert island. You need only 3 items you can bring. What are they?
Honestly,
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into 5 with T5. We're going to bring local business owners, community champions, and all-around amazing individuals on to learn about them, their stories, or business in a quick and effective way. My name is Stephen Turnbull with T5 Insurance Services, your host, and I'm joined by my guest today, Lauren Kalil. And we are, as always, going to start the clock with 5 rapid-fire questions for our guest, and then we'll slow things down. Lauren, how are you today?
I am fantastic.
Appreciate you being here. We're going to start right off the gate. You have to pick one, deadlifts or squats.
Squats all day, baby.
What's the why behind that?
I hate pulling from the floor. I rather just put something on my back and go down and up.
Love it. You heard it here first, folks. All right, question number 2. I know following you and your journey and everything that you do in your everyday work and all that, you do a lot of traveling. What is the one must-have item for Lauren when you're traveling?
Oh, God. I feel like this should be so easy, but salt packets, hydration packets.
There you go. I like that. That could get you through some long hours in case you have delays and whatnot, right? That'll keep you moving.
It's gotten me through a lot.
All right, we're going to get a little bit deeper into this in the later part of the show, but the best piece of advice that you would give for somebody that is considering pursuing their passion.
Trust your gut and be your biggest cheerleader.
I love that. I love that second part too, because that's important. Question number 4, going back to some items. You are going on a desert island. You need only 3 items you can bring. What are they? Maybe
My
salt
dogs.
packets.
Honestly, I don't know if the salt packets is going to make the cut on the desert island. Maybe that'll come later. But okay, so I definitely need my dogs. I need a good pillow. And oh God. Yeah, we'll go with the salt packets because if I'm not hydrated, I'm going to die.
A dog, dogs, 2 dogs. You have 2 dogs, right? So dogs, salt packets, and a good pillow. You're set to go for a while. What else? What else would you need? All right, question number 5, last one of the rapid fire. And just knowing your background, what is one thing that you miss about working in the news industry?
Insurance. A 401k. Benefits.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
I love that answer because we're going to get into betting on yourself. That is fantastic. That's a great answer. All right. You survived the first 5 in less than 3 minutes. So that is fantastic. Lauren, for someone who's watching this for the first time, tell us your story. Tell us who you are, where you come from, all that good stuff. And then we'll talk about what we want to talk about.
Sure. So I am a native to upstate New York. My whole family is from Clinton. I now live in Syracuse, New York, because I took a television job in Syracuse. So that's kind of what brought me back here closer to home after living in the Midwest for a while, working for local TV. But I went to school for sports journalism. I really wanted to work in sports specifically, but when I graduated in 2014, there just wasn't I just wasn't getting hired for those jobs. So one of my advisors at Sacred Heart University, where I went to college, said, hey, if you really want to get into this, you should just take a job in news and, get in good with the sports department. If they need help shooting Friday night football, high school basketball, anything like that, you're going to be their go-to, but the foot in the door is taking a news job. So that's what I did. And I worked closely with the sports departments at really all the TV stations that I worked at, but there wasn't the right synergy between really either positions. I thought, okay, I really like some of the stories I'm telling in news. Let me lean into that. And the more I leaned into that, it felt like the harder it was getting. The positions that I was seeking out, things just weren't coming in line, and it felt like my passion and the reasons why I got into journalism in the first place were just pulling so far away, whether it was now the angles of stories that my news director wanted me to tell or the certain like quota of people we had to interview during the day. Like it wasn't about quality, it was about quantity. And that really wasn't in line with why I like talking to people and learning their stories. I want to go deeper. I want to know your why and your purpose and why are we telling the story? Not just, okay, this is the story we're going to do. We need to interview 5 people and obviously try to get both sides. So it just wasn't really meshing with what I thought was my North Star, whether that was sports or news. And in 2016, my dad was into CrossFit. I saw him on family vacation with his shirt off. He had a 6-pack. And that's really what got me into wanting to do CrossFit because I couldn't let my dad look better than me.
I love that. Let's back up a little bit to when you're talking about the journalism and then I wanted you to talk about the pivot into what you do now. But I think there's how do I word this? There's so many people that maybe aren't living the lives that they want to live. I don't want to get too deep, but like maybe just like because of that fear of change, right? And that fear of a career change, or to your point in the 5 questions, like losing a 401k, the insurance, like we laughed about it, but that's all real, right? When you make these different jumps and you do these things, whether it's starting a business, like what I did with T5, or, you know, jumping into a different career change, it's all scary things that I think look like uphill mountains, but kind of when you start that ascend and you realize, okay, it's not so bad, I get to the next level and all that. I want just share your, you know, feelings and emotions, if you will, when you were in that discovery of like, man, this isn't really where my heart is for these reasons that you just explained, and when you were looking to make your pivot.
Yeah, I mean, it sucked. It was really scary. It was a decision that didn't come lightly to me. So the way that local TV works is you sign between a 1-year contract and a 5-year contract. 1 is not very common. It's normally like 3, somewhere in the middle. And I knew and you cannot get out of these contracts. Like, it doesn't matter if you're married and your husband is in the military and gets uprooted the other side of the country, you have to stay. You will not get out of that contract. It's actually pretty wild. But I knew that I was not willing to give up 2 to 3 more years of my life doing something that I didn't love, doing something that every day I'd wake up and I wanted to take a sick day. And this was going on for at least the last 1.5 years of my career in television. And at this point, I was leaning heavy into CrossFit. And I thought, you know, I have all of the skills to be able to do media in CrossFit. I just don't really know how. There's not jobs that you apply for. There's not like a playbook on how to do it.
Sure.
So it was this really scary moment of, I can't stay in local news anymore. I have to get out because I refuse to do this for 2 to 3 more years. But with that, there's going to be a lot of being uncomfortable. And
Sure.
when the day that I left on May 21st, 2021, I think it was 2021, I went a full month with only having a part-time job. I was writing part-time for a newsletter in CrossFit. So I lost all of my benefits. I was not on health insurance for, I think, maybe 2 months before I finally was able to like get it independently. I lost my 401k. I mean, I was able to like transfer that into another account, but I didn't accrue it anymore. And there was all of this uncertainty and almost like, oh my God, what did I do? I'm almost 30 years old and I left a stable job that had stable income during the pandemic. Oh my God.
Right.
But there was that little voice of, you're a hard worker. You don't just sit back. You're not a lazy person. You're going to seek out opportunities. And at that point, I mean, really, right before I finally did leave TV, I was sliding into everybody's inboxes. I was getting emails. I was on Instagram. I was finding ways to try to make those opportunities for myself, which is really scary because a lot of people either ghosted me or said no.
Yeah.
And I don't think people talk about that a lot.
And I mean, I know you know this my story, but and most people do, but I left the family agency, I left the comfortability, I left all of that stuff to start my own thing, to pave my own path. And the one thing when talking to people that are similar to you and I that have done that or making career changes, whatever, they always say is like the only time to figure it out is when you have to figure it out. Like when you are forced to figure it out, like to your point, like I got a part-time job, I lost my insurance, I need this, like that is when you're gonna figure it out because you have to. There's no plan B in those senses. You get out of that comfort zone. So tell us what that pivot was like and how that opportunity came, what you maybe learned from that and what you're doing now.
Yeah. So the pivot came about 6 months before I left television. And that's when I emailed the owner of a CrossFit newsletter. And I was just like, hey, I work for a local TV station. I think I have the skills to, write some of your sports sections. And that's where I got that part-time gig. But from there, I realized that there was this missing piece. They had this YouTube channel that they really did well and monetized off of, like in the 2018, 2019 years. But since then, COVID happened. They kind of just let it go flat. So they had over 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, but nothing to show for it. So I thought, I have the skills to do stuff on camera or to facilitate athlete interviews. And I didn't even ask. I kind of just started, like I said, sliding into athlete DMs like, hey, I work for this publication. I'd love to have, 10 to 15 minutes of your time and just catch up with you. And for whatever reason, athletes slowly but surely started saying yes. And that's where the YouTube channel really picked up. From there, then I created a kind of similar to ESPN's Around the Horn, like sports debate show, primarily in like fitness and CrossFit. And then that gained traction and more people wanted to be guests on that show. And it was like this 8 years of working in television, which I hated to my core. All of those skills that I developed were finally paying off. And all of those jobs and opportunities that, I cried to my mom for hours about because I thought this was the dream, this was the goal, but I wasn't getting those positions. Well, now I'm seeing a new goal and I am getting those positions. So it was like the stars were finally aligning with everything that I had spent almost a decade working towards.
Yeah. And I love that. Like the part-time job that you got because you had to get something, had to figure it out. First off, you put yourself out there to get it. It wasn't posted on Indeed. You went out and said, hey, I think I could do this. I think I could fill this gap. Here's why. Here's who I am. Here's what I bring to the table. And my favorite part of that story is that part-time opportunity then pulled into what you're doing now full-time and like what you created. And like you said, didn't really ask. I just said, hey, let's do this. It's gonna be great. I think the most important thing in this type of conversation, which I absolutely love, by the way, because I can relate totally to everything that we're talking about, is the pain and the hard times and I'll say the pain and the hard times from even the standpoint of just like questioning yourself, like you said, I'm going to be 30, I got rid of this, I got rid of that. Like that's what creates these opportunities and that's what allows you to get to the next level to keep moving forward. If you don't experience that, you're not just going to jump forward to it, right? Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And it was... it's either sink or swim. You don't have a choice. And kind of when I alluded at the beginning to being your biggest cheerleader, yes, you have people on, at least for me and what I do, on social media who are pumping you up, but that doesn't happen all the time. Right. And that doesn't happen when people are saying no to me. You have to have such a almost like sickening amount of confidence in yourself that it does maybe lean into the category of being cocky. But if you don't have that, you will fail. You have to believe in yourself and you have to know that you are the best candidate for these jobs because you're constantly selling yourself and almost like making people believe in you the amount that you believe in yourself.
I love that you did the comparison of cockiness to confidence because that's when you're looking at anybody in business or in life or for that matter of creating a brand for yourself, like you have to be comfortable with that. And that's part of being uncomfortable, right? When I started doing video marketing in 2016, I still remember I did for my family's agency. I didn't have a, what do you call it? a holster for the phone. I didn't have a tripod or anything. I stacked my phone on top of 12 tissue boxes, so it was even to my face. I did a 2-minute video, and it took me 3.5 hours to do the 2-minute video because I was criticizing myself at or my hair was over this way or whatever. And it's like you have to build that to just say, oh no, you're going to put yourself out there. You're going to believe in yourself and create these opportunities. Lauren, this has been incredible. We got to wrap it up because of our time limit here on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time. I want you to just end with maybe talking to someone that is listening to this that might have an aha moment for themselves. Maybe they've been struggling with their everyday job of just not being fulfilled, like you talked about, constantly wanting to call in, whatever that might be. And, if you could just give them the biggest piece of advice and what you've learned through this journey that's brought you to where you are today, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, your career makes up so much of your life and the time that we spend on the planet, that if it feels like a career, if it feels like a job, if you have that little voice in your head or a pit in your stomach, it's not right for you. And I know that financial stability is something that also leads to happiness and being able to do the things we want. But if our gut is not in line with what it takes to get to that financial freedom, then you have to make a change. Bet on yourself, be your biggest cheerleader. And if you just keep following your North Star, you'll get there.
That's so good. So good. Lauren, where can everybody find you and follow along on your journey? Speaking of all that, what's the best way to get in touch or just follow along on what you're doing?
Yeah, I try to make it really easy. It's just my name. So my website is laurenkalil.com, Instagram, TikTok at Lauren Kalil. And I'm pretty responsive. If anybody has any questions, just shoot me a message.
Awesome. Thanks for taking time to join us. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to check it out. She's doing incredible things. I love the story, and you're going to want to make sure you have that as a follow. Everybody, that's another episode of today's episode of 5 with T5. We hope you enjoyed this engaging conversation. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel and Facebook page at T5 Insurance. Until next time, remember, the power of connection and learning from one another is what makes our community thrive. But most importantly, remember to make an impact in someone's life today, even if that's your own. Stephen Turnbull here with T5 Insurance. We'll see you next week. Take care.